For the first game today, we are playing Skaven up against Bretonia. We're continuing to try out our weapon team's build to see if we can get it to work. It's proven to be much better than our previous weapon team build, thanks to the addition of wolf rats and throt. So we've also added in some poison wind globadiers too, since they give they add in that slight bit of extra damage, which can help out a lot. So yeah, that's basically the gist of it. I'm sure most of you have already heard about it. So let's get underway. Let's see, we need to get guard mode on, set up our hotkeys, and we're good to go. So good luck, have fun to our opponent. Noticing a little bit of lag here. I think I'll need to remember to switch my graphics after this. But then after that, we should be good to go. So our opponent is ready. He's brought a force of equal size. And immediately we see Lewin, a field trebuchet, and some infantry. So hopefully we're going to get a nice mixed build here. Evenly what's it? Builds with even army setup, so a little bit of everything. Is probably the best for this build. Just because it reduces the amount of cavalry. We have tons of anti-infantry options. I think we'll be good. Now, he is taking a position behind the hill, which does make it harder for my Ratling guns to shoot. It's a good thing we didn't take Giselles. But our Globadiers will be able to get a few shots in. We even hit Lewin with some Globadiers. And, man, this side of the map is going to cause a few problems here. Let's see, so some knights are moving up. And it's about time now that we position our guns to fire onto them. See, Throt and the Plague Priest will be moving up, so that they can shut down some archers. And we can do that with a Rat Ogre summon. There we go. This guy can summon into the back line like so. And it looks like we actually had some knights close in on this flank. So that's a little bit unfortunate there. Mostly a miss micro from us, I feel. And we lose a Warp Fire Thrower. But we get some knight kills. We take them down to about half HP. Let's see, Lewin too is taking quite a bit of damage, but we'll need to pull back our dogs. And Lewin actually looks like he's getting stun locked, which is good. But this hill is making it very hard for us to actually get our guns firing. Let's see, Lewin is pushing in through the right side too, but he's at half HP, and I think maybe we'll be able to snipe him out. Let's see, it could be rough though. Can bring in our dogs. In fact, they can probably kill these knights since they do have AP. And with Throt 2 and some buffs, I think they'll be good. Hopefully we'll be able to secure our guns. Let's see, specifically this last unit of Ratling guns. And if they manage to survive, I think we'll be okay. But it really depends on how many of of these knights we're able to deal with. There's still quite a few left, and I think that's probably the end of us actually. Oh man, yeah, I guess I probably should have built better to deal with this hill. I think we also missed micro too, but good play from our opponent. We lost our rats, so we'll give it a GG. All right, so interesting test. Optimus. Let's see here. So let's take a quick look at the build. We had 5 knights to deal with. We saw that 2 of them, actually 4 of them, were able to to get quite a bit of value by engaging on our back lines. I think we probably wanted a different build for this map, but lessons learned, and we'll move on to the next game. So for our next game, we're up against the Tomb Kings, playing a similar build to last time, except this time we have 2 units of Jezzails. We cut 1 Warp Fire Thrower, and we cut 1 Rattling Gun. Our opponent is playing Tomb Kings, and they have brought an army size of 1,000. So we'll see how that goes in just a second. And let's take a look. See, so we're seeing Kotep on his artillery piece, along with a Bone Giant, which will also be able to fire away at us. So we're going to need to advance as quickly as possible. And hopefully we'll be able to avoid most of this damage. A big shot comes in from the Giant, but gets blocked by the tree. Thank goodness for that tree. Yeah, that actually buys us a lot of time. He has a pretty long reload animation, and it looks like his next target now is my Jezzails. I'm not entirely sure. It was a miss. So that helps us out quite a bit. Now, we are in range now. And we're going to get these Jezzails to fire away at Kotep. The Rattling Guns. Oh man, I forgot to give these guys guard mode. There we go. So the Rattling Guns will stay back. And I think we want to get into a position where we can actually stop any cavalry that comes in from the side. Our Poison Wind Globadiers are come on. Our Poison Wind Globadiers will be dealing with the infantry. And we now see that the cavalry is beginning to show itself. They're moving in along the sides. And we can probably block them off with our Warp Fire Throwers. We'll have some dogs too to move into support. And yeah, we're going to need to bring them fast to get that counter charge in. Let's see, so there we go, some chariots are moving in. The cavalry too. And they'll be able to make the gap. But they'll get intercepted by dogs. So we're feeling safe there. And I think we just need to continuously spawn summons over here to make sure that we can keep running them into the back lines. We want to shut down those artillery pieces as much as possible. Meanwhile, the chariots are doing pretty well, but otherwise the front line is disintegrating pretty quickly. We're going to bring our Rattling Guns to shoot the Eyes of the Desert, but they will get shut down by an Ushapti summon. Luckily, it does take a lot longer to activate now, so we'll take advantage of that. And bring in Throt to, to deal with the Ushapti. Never mind, we're sending him in to deal with the chariots instead. Alright, let's see. How are we doing? Kotep is still alive, so we're going to send in some Plague Monks to deal with him. And we really just want to make sure that our guns stay online, but it could be a little bit difficult. Let's see here. Yeah, there's a lot of cavalry in the back, but they will run and return from routing, which helps quite a bit. And Throt is getting a lot of damage on those key large targets. Oh, there we go. Kotep is actually down now. So what do we actually need to do to win here? I think if we take out the major threats against Throt, then we're good to go. So we're going to focus on that. So let's see, we have another unit of Rattling Guns back. And we have a single unit of Warp Fire Throwers. They'll be able to shoot at these skeleton spearmen. And after they're dead, the main threats to Throt are really just these Eyes of the Desert. The Bone Giant, of course, will continue to fire in on him. But if we can actually get into melee on it, it's not as scary. So we're going to instead focus on those Eyes of the Desert, who are actually moving away from the Bone Giant right now. So a change of plans, we're moving on the Bone Giant instead. Meanwhile, our Warp Fire Thors will fire on the Hyro Titan. They'll actually do pretty good damage and very little friendly fire, since they shoot towards the middle of the target. As long as they actually start firing. There we go, we'll retarget them. And then we'll bring our Poison Wind Globadiers to deal with, to finish off the rest of the front line. There aren't too many threats left for them. So, yeah, there's nowhere really else for them to go. So we'll just give them that task. Let's see, the Hyro Titan is slowly marching up, but I don't think it'll be able to do too much here. It is avoiding most of the damage, and it'll actually catch my Giselle soon. So we're going to start running away with those guys. I think they do outpace the Hyro Titan. So we'll just lead it on a wild goose chase. And now that it's actually been pinned down by our dogs, we can get some nice volleys on it. Swat, meanwhile, is doing very healthy. And I think we are good to go. This game went a little bit sketchy. I wasn't super confident throughout, but we've just barely managed to pull through. I think if the cavalry had shut down my guns a little bit better, though, things could have been much scarier. So we'll have to see how this build continues to perform. Right now, I get more skeptical of it by the moment. But okay, yeah, the game's over at this point. We've hit army losses, and that should be GG. Yep, the Gisele's actually outgunned the Bone Giant pretty well there. Yeah, Wolfrat's first undead. Okay. Yeah, things were a little bit sketchy there. I think versus Tomb Kings, I'd bring a more specialized build next time. Yeah. Yeah, the Wolfrats didn't do much. What really won it there? Was it the Giselles? It was indeed the Giselles. So next game, our opponent readied up pretty quickly, so we just threw together something quick. Which turns out to be a very sketchy build. I don't know how good it is. I'm a bit worried that we're going to get rushed. But we have guns, we have Wolfrats, and we have some skirmishers to help out. Our opponent playing Wood Elves, if I didn't state that earlier. And his troop count is extremely small. So expecting a rush, we're actually going to deploy further back now. Usually small numbers like this mean that it's a very hard commit. Well, it means that there's not a lot of infantry. So it could be Treekin, could be what's it? What are the big trees called? Dirthus. It could be Way Watcher spam, or just, you know, like just a ton of skirmishing power. If it is a rush, we want to deploy back, which makes us a little bit disadvantaged for skirmish, since we give our opponent a lot more space. But because we have 3 Giselles, I'm not too worried about that. Stag Knights incoming. Yeah, that's true. Yes, there we go, Treemen. Yeah, so some things to worry about. And in fact, they may actually deploy behind me. So we'll have to be careful about that too. So let's get into the battle. See what they have for us. I feel like Skaven Kite is the strongest style now. Maybe. In some matchups for sure. The Wolfrats in a Kite build are really good. They're high DPS, they're very fast. Yeah, they're pretty great. You know what? Yeah, that's true. There could be Dryads in the trees. We'll move these guys a little bit further back. We start too early, whatever. Our opponent didn't give us time to ready. Oh man, I keep forgetting to turn down my my graphic settings too. Can someone remind me about that after this game? The loss of FPS is sort of sucky. There we go. So there are indeed Stag Knights in the trees. And actually a pretty normal looking build over here. So I guess we'll just corner the Stag Knights then. and then take it from there. If we manage to pick these guys off, we're in a very good position. So let's see, the Stag Knights, they pull and charge towards my Gutter Runners at first. And you know what? I think it might be best to just brace and hold where they can. We'll then throw down a Rat Ogre summon on top of the Stag Knights. And then they'll be able to pin them down. Our dogs will be able to charge in too and abuse their low armor. And then they should be dead. There we go. So we had to use a lot of resources. Stag Knights are still very strong. But we get a fairly clean takedown on them. We just have to use one of Thrott's spells. And take a little bit of damage on our Gutter Runners. See, there are still the Sisters of Twilight to worry about though. So even with an advantage like that, there is still quite a bit to worry about. The Sisters of Twilight, it's not exactly worth it to shoot them with our Giselles, and that is because they have a fun healing ability where if they drop below 20%, they heal like half of their HP. So since that is what's it? So you really just need to use burst damage to kill them. And I don't think 3 Giselles will cut it there, sadly. They will be able to deal with these Glade Guard though. And once those guys are down, we'll be able to we'll be able to skirmish the rest of the infantry. And then I think we'll be okay. Sort of regretting having these Skaven slaves now though. Since they won't be able to hold the line especially well. Let's see here. Oh god. Man, I feel sluggish today. But anyway, so the Skaven slaves, they won't be able to hold the line, but at the very least it can take a charge, and then we can countercharge these Glade Riders, which will take care of them. And we just have to make sure that this cavalry force doesn't shut down our Giselles. There we go, Glade Riders are gone. We take a big hit on our Wolf Rats. But I think it's okay. Some maneuvering of the Glade Riders in the back though mean that we'll probably be taking a pretty nasty charge in the back. But something actually happens with their charge which stops it from going off, so we're thankful for that. And now we have a big whole ugly blob fight here. I think we'll be pulling back our Gutter Runners to try and disengage them from combat. And we're going to have to try and recover from this mass rout. So it's going to be a lot of summons to keep to hold the line while our other troops attempt to come back. Thrott likely won't be able to catch the Sisters of Twilight, so he's instead going to pin down those Wild Riders. And hopefully we can kite away from them. In fact, it looks like we should be good on that front. Because we'll also have some dogs charging into them too. And that should take them out. This infantry fight in the middle is going okay. It's about even. But I think with some summons, that should swing in our favor. We specifically want to deal with the War Dancers since they're high DPS. And the summons don't really care if they take damage. Meanwhile, recovering Giselles can now start pressuring the Sisters of Twilight. And then hopefully we'll be able to get a good pick on them. Our Wolf Rats will need to pull out of combat since they're not very effective there, but actually the Eternal Guard terror out, so we'll bring the Wolf Rats back in. Deal with them. The Ghost Sisters of Twilight are now being chased down by Thrott, and hopefully his quick movement will be able to pin them down. Sadly, that is not the case, and the Sisters of Twilight do manage to escape. That's a little bit bad, but we can pretty safely bring them to a low HP count. Or actually, you know what? We might actually be able to get them to rout, which is the best case scenario. So there we go, they do begin routing. And to make sure that their healing doesn't go off, we're going to be chasing them with our gutter runners and firing in on them with our Jezzails. This will keep them routing, and hopefully we'll be able to get a kill on them. Okay, and instead of a kill, they shatter, which spells army losses for the Wood Elves, and we get a win. Although that was a little bit not a very decisive victory, I gotta say. Let's see, so taking a quick look at things. The gutter runners did well. Our Jezzails only did okay. I think they could have done better. And if we hadn't caught these lost Sylvan Knights at the beginning of the game, I think that would have been a loss for us. So for the next game, we're up against the Dowie. And because of that, we're a lot more comfortable really leaning into these warp fire throwers. They can do a lot of damage to dwarf frontline, and they can actually kite away from them. As weapon teams do have 38 speed, which is about the same speed as any dwarf unit. Let's see here. Our hero squad is Queek and an assassin to snipe out any heroes that we come across. And we have a caster with the usual summoning setup kit. We'll be using this guy to shut down any quarrelers or thunderers. There's also some wolf rats here, which will do very well in we have wolf rats, which will do very well if we need to finish off dwarf units, because once our models actually start getting low, the warp fire throwers don't want to be wasting their ammunition on them or wasting their time firing onto them. And instead they want to be going onto different targets. So to allow them to do that, we've brought our wolf rats who will be finishing off units. And I think that's about it. You know, we just have a bunch of weapon teams. It's the same as we've been going for the rest of today. Since this morning. So let's see how that goes. Good luck, have fun to our opponent. And let's hope he doesn't have a million bolt throwers. I guess that would be the worst case situation. Summons will beat Slayers. Yes, that is true. Slayers do have a pretty hard time versus summons. Okay, and immediately we are seeing a Vanguard build from the dwarves. All right. Well, that's not the worst case situation. We just have to turn our guns here, and then we'll be just fine. Teeth breakers can stealth and begin firing away. Now wolf rats will be able to start pressuring these guys. These poison wind globadiers move over. We'll bring our lords here, and the dwarves don't have any lords that can support here. So they may very well have a bit of a hard time actually dealing with my assassin and such. The gyrocopters are moving in. But yeah, gyrocopters are not especially scary here. They have relatively low DPS. So yeah, we're feeling okay. These rangers are getting quite a bit of fire in now though. And we'll have to throw down some summons to actually shut them down. Our wolf rats too will want to begin diving in on them. So we'll grab a few and begin bringing them over. Let's see, meanwhile, our warp fire throwers should be able to get quite a bit of damage onto the rangers now, although they are getting traded into. But with our summons, I think we should be just fine. The rangers are now beginning to rout, and they're close enough to the edge of the map where they likely won't be able to come back. Our heroes are still at full HP, and I think we're gonna have to focus on dealing with these iron breakers now. So our poison wind units will be moving in on them, since iron breakers can be a huge pain in the late game. And then after that, it's just Ungrim, And Ungrim is not too much of a threat. So we can just ignore him until the late game. These gyrocopters aren't brimstone guns, which means that they can't snipe out my heroes. So I think it's just going to come down to a victory using my heroes then. Let's see, what is this? A unit of slayers, which is a little bit scary. Have to pull away from them. Let's see here. And as long as we keep these poison wind globes alive, I think we'll be fine. Let's see, our Jezzails actually are doing really well too. So I think we're going to turn those guys to deal with the gyrocopters, just so that they can't shut down my other weapon teams. And then these poison wind globadiers will be able to deal with the rest. So there we go, that's the Rangers dealt with. And these Slayers will be chasing the globadiers to infinity. We have a lot of map to run away to. So we're just going to continue running with them. And it'll keep the Slayers busy. And we don't really even need these poison wind mortars anymore. So I think that's a net win for us. Ungrim does actually make it to my Jezzail, so we'll have to pull back with them. But he is very exposed now, and we'll be able to snipe him out with our heroes. So let's bring in Queek. Let's bring in the Assassin. We'll stealth him up too. And I think we can also throw in a summon over here to stall out the Norgrimlings, while the poison wind mortars actually do their damage. So Queek going to throw down his debuffs on Ungrim, and that means that his melee defense is 0. Jeez, so he'll be getting hit a whole ton, and Queek with his melee attack buffs and armor piercing. Yeah, his melee attack buffs and armor piercing will be a bit too much for Ungrim, and then we should have game. Now, just to make sure that ends a little bit faster, we'll snipe out these gyrocopters with the Jezzails. And nice, it's just the Slayers left, so we'll just select our entire army, charge in towards them, and then that should be game. So, a little bit of a sketchy game again. I think our dog control could have been better. Grouping them up on the Rangers would have actually dealt with them slightly better. But we did have enough warp fire throwers to actually hold off that Vanguard after some repositioning. Yeah, before these Slayers just kill everything. If only. If only. You know, maybe in game 3 when they add in Demon Slayers, then we'll be able to see some of that action. Which, by the way, I'm still waiting for Demon Slayers, cause I feel like maybe like a crazy heavy AP, really strong fighter for the dwarf army roster could be nice. Like something that can actually kill elite AP units of other factions would give the dwarf front line a little bit more fighting power. But Demon Slayers might also be heroes, so I don't know. Bonus versus chaos. Yep, and then that's all they get. But okay, yeah, let's take a quick stock at our units. And the warp fire throwers actually did less than I would have expected. Most of the damage came in from these globadiers. Okay, cool. A lot of it came from the rats too. But yeah. Interesting Vanguard build from the dwarves. It's sort of... I'm not sure. Even if I took a ton of poison wind mortars, we'd still be able to run away. So I don't know how effective this is, but... it almost got us, so certainly not the worst. Okay, so for this next quick battle, we actually queued up with a viewer in chat. And we're both playing Skaven. Except different factions. I'm playing Ikit Claw, and he's playing Tretch's faction. So I've decided to bring a thematic army with the usual weapon team build. Except this time we have some warp lightning cannons just to spruce things up a tiny bit. Our opponent has an army of similar size, slightly smaller. And we're really hoping that we don't see too many Eshin units, really. As long as we don't have that, I think we'll be fine. There's a time when Skaven united against mankind. That's sketchy. But okay, anyways, let's look at this build. Let's see, I'm seeing some warp fire throwers. There's some poison wind globadiers. Some warp grinders even. Interesting, okay. And of course, Tretch Craven Tail. There's units behind me, aren't there? There they are. So we're going to have to turn and get ready to fire on them. Our wolf rats are at the ready to countercharge. And we should be able to win this fight. They will charge into my warp lightning cannons. But as long as the warp lightning cannon doesn't rout, I think we'll be just fine. Our Jazales can now fire on the warp fire throwers. And we are going to lose a warp lightning cannon to some death runners, sadly. But at the very least, we'll be able to trade out against them. And I think that's a net positive trade for us. Oh, there's actually a brood horror coming in now. It's a little bit scary. I don't know if we have what we need to actually kill it. But let's see. Let's see our poisoned wind globadiers and keep firing on those triads. Let's get warp fire on the council guard and poison wind mortars, pushing back those Skaven slaves. Our warp fire throwers can position to maximize damage, and our Jazales can focus on Tretch. So let's see, how are things going right now? The Death Squad are taking quite a bit of damage from the wolves. So I think as soon as those guys are gone, we can focus on what's it? Yeah, okay. Oh man, I can't think. So we've killed the Death Runners, and the major threats for us right now is really just the brood horror, I guess, and maybe some council guard, which makes me actually feel pretty confident. There's not a whole ton to worry about. Tretch, no, not Tretch. Icket Claw is at full HP. And we're going to see how well his shot ability does on this brood horror. It hits a tree, so not very well, turns out. But it doesn't matter. This game's going pretty well. We just have a few. There's actually not much left, really. There's just some triads to kill, I guess. Tretch will likely die to this doom wheel. And then after that, I think we'll be a-okay. Let's see if we can get a nice manual fire on this. No, we can't. Rip. Okay, well, we're going to continue firing we're going to continue firing onto the brood horror. Icket is going to continue running over Tretch. And let's see. And I'm going to try to figure out. It looks like we were firing at the triad clones earlier. So a bit of a misplay there. But oh man, yeah, I just feel like my thought processing has really been shutting down today. Maybe we'll end stream a little bit early, but anyways, I oh man, okay, so what's actually going on in my brain right now is that there's just so much stuff to manage with the Skaven that I have no idea what to commentate on. Because usually there's just so many flanks going on, and I think the Skaven mirror actually was a nail in the coffin for my casting ability. But at the very least, things are calming down a little bit now, and we can actually focus on some target prioritization. We have a unit of plague monks, which are just summons, and they will be deteriorating. The heroes are gone, so I think it's just Tretch that, no, not Tretch. It's just these Ixcha's Triads that we want to finish off now. We have our Warp Fire Throwers with, with a nice surround on top of them. And with a few shots, we should be able to deal with the Triads. After that, Ikit can finish off the last of these heroes. The Tretch is being surprisingly sturdy. Yeah, he's being surprisingly hard to kill. I think we're getting that chariot bug where they just sort of chase the hero forever. Instead, we're going to stick some rats on him. And then hopefully they'll be able to finish him off. So there we go. We get Tretch to shatter. We hit army losses. And then we get GG. Oh my gosh. Oh man, I feel like Skaven have a lot going on. But we managed to pull through. Yeah, there was some fun Vanguard shenanigans that actually went down there. But the Wolf Rats, heroes of the backline, were able to peel for us there. We let our Warp Lightning Cannons get charged, and then we got to countercharge with the Wolf Rats, which won us the fight against these rats and the Death Squad that came in around the back. After that, we had a pretty nice lead until our Jezzails got shut down, but the Warp Fire Throwers and the Globadiers were able to trade out on the infantry. And with all that out of the way, we were good. The pick on the assassin too helped a lot too, also. So we're finishing off today with the viewer suggestion battle that I promised during my tournament run the other day. So it's going to be a little bit of a mixed up build of a bunch of different units, because yeah, that's typically how viewer suggestions go. So we have our single entity fighters here in the form of Tretch and Gorich. I think Gorich also causes terror, which will be very helpful. And then we'll be using our small backline to deal the majority of the damage. If there's a lot of infantry, our front line is actually pretty elite, and we'll be able to use our guns and our guns and Globadiers to hopefully melt down the greenskin front line. They do number at a very high troop count, which is pretty scary, but we'll have to make do. So we begin the game, and immediately we're not seeing a ton of units, which tells me that a lot of them are either hidden or well, yeah, a lot of them are hidden for sure, because this is not 1,400 units. The Grom is beginning to dodge some of my shots. Don't have to worry about that. And you know what? I'm thinking there's probably a Vanguard behind me. So we're going to pull back some of our troops to get ready for that. And then we'll also be moving in our Gutter Runners to search in front of us in case there's any fanatics. Grom looks like he's beginning to move up towards us, so we'll position our rattling guns accordingly. And we'll just leave our Warp Lightning Cannons firing away. Our opponent is being pretty idle right now, which is helpful for us, but it does worry me. And we're going to continue moving around to make sure that we're able to spot anything that that tries to sneak around. The Rat Ogres do move out of range of my Warp Lightning Cannon. So instead we're just going to focus fire some archers and continue scouting around. We do not want to be fighting, so hopefully we'll be able to delay the engage as long as possible by being not extremely aggressive. So far it's working out okay, but we're getting very little damage off of our Warp Lightning Cannon. It appears to be missing quite a bit, possibly from the dodging of our opponent. So we're going to be constantly changing the targets here, make sure that we can actually get some hits in. There we go, we kill a few Orc Archer Boys, but not too many. And I feel like we might actually run out of ammunition here. on this poor warp lightning cannon. A Night Goblin, Great Shaman, shows himself. Oh, and he's actually sniping out my artillery pieces now. So, that will be a little bit of a problem. And I guess we will have to begin advancing to make sure that our things don't get sniped out. So a continued dodging comes in from my opponent. And we're just going to be advancing on forwards to try and to try and get this engagement happening, since we are getting out-traded now. The Night Goblin Shaman can be pushed back with our rattling guns, but he's already done enough damage. He's brought our warp lightning cannons to 1 model now. So yeah, he's brought our warp lightning cannons down to 1 model. So now we have to advance, and we're going to see if we can do okay with our warp fire throwers. They're going to be diving in towards these archers, and our rattling guns are going to be moving up to try and yeah, dealing with the archers too. We don't want them shooting at our Plague Monk sensor bearers. We'll have to be careful there. And we'll also have to be careful to keep Gorich safe. It's hard to see the arrows here, but as long as we continue to dance around with him, I do believe it should be just fine. And we're finally able to get some shots off, although even more dodging comes in from our opponent. And it looks like you might even get these warp fire throwers who are just running into their deaths. So we'll have to pull them back now. And with that out of the way, they should be in a much better position. These nasty skulkers, though, are out for blood, and they do get a pretty nice engage on my warp fire throwers. The charge from our Plague Monk sensor bearers will help out, and then hopefully they'll be able to chase them off, and they do. So now we're just going to keep moving in those sensor bearers, and hopefully they'll be able to break in through along the side. Our Death Runners are going to get ready to engage in on those Black Orcs, and we're going to try shutting down Grom, but Grom is he's getting in a lot of damage on my weapon teams, and now a lot of our lines are compromised. This is suddenly looking really bad, but our sensor bearers are doing okay, and they might be able to win the infantry fight along the left-hand side. So let's get them in over there. Let's pull in our warp fire teams to try and kill those skirmishers on the right side. Ooh, I'm gonna say this is looking pretty rough. I'm sort of wishing I had some poison wind mortars here. But yeah, it appears we simply were not able to pull it out here. Oh man, things just fell apart really quickly. I think our opponent did a really nice job staying away from our gun teams here and dodging our warp lightning cannon shots. So we're going to have to end it off on a little bit of a down note with a loss there. But I think it was at least a pretty good lesson, showing that this build was not particularly the best. I was very surprised how quickly Gorich died, though. But he was taking a lot of archer fire, and I'm not sure there was much we could have done there. But yes, Infernal Wrath, you are correct. Green did indeed still win. So I'm happy to call it a win there. All right. Well, yeah, that should be the last battle for today then.